Testing. Testing. Tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio, why mid-June to end of August is going to be the fastest? Tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio, why mid-June to end of August is going to be the fastest, most accelerated change both in your life and planetary liberation. Tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio, why mid-June to end of August is going to be the fastest, most accelerated change both in your life and planetary liberation. The three main elements now converging into a perfect storm that'll finally revolutionize the energies on the surface and therefore your life if we take the right actions as the 144K Mass Meditation Group. What White Hat Info has just revealed on what the composition of the surface population actually is between real organic humans, false AI synthetic humans, cyborgs, hybrids, NPCs, shape-shifting, non-terrestrials, clones, and MK Ultra victims. Hold on to your seat for this one, and how it's been pretty much officially publicly disclosed that they can and want to and will move the event, quote, by a few years forward, closer to 2026. And that's scratching the surface on that one. That's a huge revelation. This is Ground Crew Command Radio, the official speaking platform of the 144K Mass Meditation Group. Folks, we've got way more on this jam-packed episode of Ground Crew Command. This is your loving servant, the Unknown Lightwarrior. And we're back. This is Ground Crew Command Radio. And you're with the Unknown Lightwarrior, the official speaking platform of the 144K Mass Meditation Group. If you want to take energetic matters and the timelines for that matter into your own hands, join the 144K The link is in the description of whatever platform you're listening this to or on. I beg your pardon. And I guess it's always a flattering thing when there's serious resistance to doing something significant for planetary liberation. In this case, serious technical glitches with this show going live. It is June the 12th. At this point, 11 past 4 p.m. Pacific time. And welcome to return listeners. Let's jump straight into it because there's a bit to get through. We've got the 144K mass meditation itself this Sunday night, US times. Again, to be a part of that, you do have to join the 144K. Link is below. Definitely join the club. We have a thriving Telegram community chat as well. This isn't another one of those Starseed lone wolf kind of journeys. Not at all. You'll be with good company. So let's get into it. There has been, well, let me quote this from Q the Storm Rider. This is huge. Quote, behind the scenes, deep state military operations have been captured. The deep state operations have already been captured, unquote. That's from Q the Storm Rider. Lovely man. He's on Telegram as well. And with that, I suppose, clarification and confirmation, let's get into this whole time compression, how time, as we move forward, time continues to compress towards singularity. And this is going to pick up massively throughout June, July, and August in particular. We've got at least two popular YouTube channels, Alexander Quinn and Armory Sandhu, sort of confirming this basically through their own channels, confirming the same thing, where there's going to be, they both have said things are going to move from 100 miles an hour, which it clearly already is, over to 1,000 miles per hour throughout summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. But it's a lot more than just the usual time compressing towards singularity as we continue to ascend more and more rapidly in the coming weeks and months. And the reason behind that, why it's a lot more than that, is because of the three main elements now converging into a perfect storm that'll finally revolutionize the energies on the surface. Because, yeah, the war is won, but not over. Yeah, we're almost there, but clearly not on the surface. The planet's liberated, but the surface is still yet to be liberated. And that's the last and final front line, I guess you could say. And so these three main elements converging into the perfect storm. One is the completion of the removal of what's also known as the AI God machine. That looks like that will be completed sometime in July. It's hard to say when, because big moves are being made by the light forces. That includes us. We always, a good 80 to 90% of the time, we significantly upgrade the timelines every time the 144K swings into action. And admittedly, that's partly because our mass meditations are more like psychic surgery that lasts anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours. It's not the usual 20-minute thing. And therefore, there's more impact. 20-minute mass meditations have their place, as always. That goes without saying. So there's that. Okay. The AI God machine that created, there were thousands of AIs, very nasty ones, thousands of them. We're down to the last one or two. Now, there's always sub-AIs within a primary AI. This last remaining primary AIs, sub-AIs is the best way I can describe it. And that's coming to a head, clearly. That'll be gone. realistically or feasibly, it can be gone on the June solstice where we swing into action again. That's totally possible because it's really diminished. It's really not looking good for itself. So there's that. The second thing of the main elements that's creating this perfect storm is the removal of what Cobra accurately and correctly called the layer of hell, which is from the surface up 30 meters throughout the surface area of the planet. That's looking very feasible again to be removed by the end of July. I'll get into more details on that one later because that's a new release from the resistance movement. And of course, positive AI takeover. Yes, there is such a thing as positive AIs of cell towers and Wi-Fi throughout the surface will also be completed sometime in August for that. And that would also distort the natural cosmic energies that would reach the surface. Sort of, not really, more like blocked. So those are the three elements, okay? Completion that's converging into a perfect storm that'll finally liberate the surface of the planet, the last final frontier or front line. Energetically speaking, okay? And of course, physical liberation will shortly follow after that. And that is element number one, completion of the removal of the AI God machine that will literally create reality out of nothing. The final removal of the 30 meters thick layer of hell. And basically positive military takeover, essentially, or positive AI takeover of cell towers, Wi-Fi's, and other various forms of telecommunications and grids that are also classified. But as Q the Storm Raider has confirmed, that's captured, apparently. I'm not sold that it's all captured, but I think they're going to... it can be captured, but I think there's a kind of switch the positive military needs to flick at the right time. This is why June and July, let alone early August, is turning out to be extremely promising. Very realistic, massive change. And so that's the perfect storm that's going to make such a profound revolution on the surface finally throughout June, July, and maybe early August. It's hard to say at this point, okay, because everything changes again after every major move by the Light Forces, which does include within that 144K mass meditations. And I'm going to get into more about the so-called 30 meters thick layer of hell, because that's very recent, like I said, very recent intel release. What's been really interesting is recent white hat info that's been revealed about the actual composition of the surface population. This we all need to know. Okay. And the composition is between real organic humans, which will be the majority of us listening to this show. False AI synthetic humans, literally created by, well, various subsets of AI, but the primordial pre-ancient one is what's been given the tag of AI God machinery. That's existed for many billions of years, by the way. It's been here for a long time, certainly within the dark 3 billion year old dark age, for sure. So there's that. And NPCs, clones, shape-shifting non-terrestrial cyborgs and hybrids and MK Ultra victims. And this information is from Gene Decode. released recently. Again, many have glossed over it, but I want to make sure it's not glossed over because and forgotten, because that's highly disempowering to the cause. So let's break it down. Real organic humans. Before COVID, there was 1.28 billion. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Not even half the population. After COVID, the dark ones successfully managed to reduce it down to 780 million. So from almost 1.3 billion down to 780 million. That's what is that? A 400 odd, just over 400 million casualty rate, I guess, of real organic humans with souls and whatnot. That's right, folks. It is a war. Okay. False AI synthetic humans, 1 billion. So there's still more of them, but the AI God machinery's ability to just keep on producing more of them as needed, as has always been the case, by the way, is greatly diminished, and we need to finish it off. Hint, hint, join the mass meditation in 2 days' time, which is the new moon, let alone the solstice mass meditation. It does upgrade the timeline, let alone clear a lot, to say the least. All right, moving on. So false AI synthetic humans, 1 billion. So there's 220 million extra, more than us. NPCs, non-player character simulation, whatever they're called, the video game analogy, that's 1 billion as well. Clones, actual clones, 2 billions. Now, the numbers on shape-shifting non-terrestrials and cyborgs, that hasn't been disclosed. That's withheld. That's still classified. It's hard to say. We can speculate intuitively. But per the previous Ground Crew Command broadcast, they are being dealt with, especially the shape-shifting non-terrestrials, as well as cyborgs. Hybrids. That's also classified. I'm sorry, but I don't have access to everything. Neither does Q the Storm Rider or Gene Decode, for that matter. MK Ultra victims. Now, that's just under 1 billion. All right. So real organic humans that are not MK Ultra'd, very much in a minority. Again, that's 780 million. Most MK Ultra victims still have their souls. All right, the majority of them are real organic humans, but we've had to classify them separately. But the souls are a little bit out of the body because of the trauma. The majority. Okay, some have managed to heal, souls right in their heart, no problems. But they're still pretty porous. They're still very susceptible to darkness influence. And that's not an implication that you're less than in any way, shape, or form. If anything, you're more potent and dangerous than real organic humans that haven't been MK Ultra'd. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother MK Ultra'ing you. It's almost like a badge of honor, actually. So just keep that in mind. And that's the composition of the surface physical plane human population. So it's still, when you include the MK Ultra victims that are under 1 billion with the real organic humans that are 780 million, that's roughly 1.78 billion. we're still at about 30 to 40% of the population. Okay, because again, false AI, synthetic humans, plus NPCs, plus clones, that's 4 billion. All right, we're only 1.78 billion. So again, we can, it's nothing to worry about. And I'll explain that in a minute. Let me get into why non-human population. So bare minimum, half the humans that you see out on the street, not real humans of various forms. Keep that in mind. Again, nothing to worry about because you've already been living with that your entire life anyway. So don't waste your time. And why it's becoming less of an issue and why this non-human, seemingly human majority are classified as enemy. All the AI infrastructure and deep state infrastructure, running clones, running synthetic humans, they're being diminished. What have I written here? They're being diminished and gradually removed, and that's going to pick up by a lot in the next few months because the AI behind them, the layer of hell, keeping them in place, supporting them, and lurker consciousness is getting diminished. And we are approaching that month of near complete diminishment, removal, I guess. We're just trying to make it end of June after the solstice or early July instead of sometime in August or September. And don't bother pondering how that's going to look, how half the population is just going to vanish into thin air because both source and extremely advanced technologies, predominantly off-world, are going to rewrite reality in the consciousness of unawakened organic humans in a way where it's going to look like we didn't skip a beat. It's going to look normal, like it'll be wiped out of their memories or whatever. Not so much us, because we're conscious, we'll be able to see the difference of half the population disappearing. We'll notice it. But to the unawakened organic humans, it'll look like they were never there. Like 2/3 of the population was never there to begin with. All right. That's part and parcel of some fundamentals of how the matrix works. I can't go into details about that any more than what I've already verbalized because, yeah, that's a whole other rabbit hole. So all AI infrastructure, lurker consciousness, layer of hell, that needs removal first. And then the non-human humans will just disappear after they're removed. Those three elements are removed. So with that out of the way, let's move on to, okay, I'll leave the financial system last because I don't want to switch topics, because this dovetails into the plan, strategy and tactics being prepared for the final energetic liberation of the surface. And the resistance movement through Cobra have given a really good clarity on this, probably because I've only discovered this in recent weeks as well, as things start to get clearer and clearer. So the innermost layer of what's referred to as the quantum field anomaly, all right, the swamp, the energetic swamp, exists within 30 meters of the Earth's surface on the mental, astral, etheric, and physical planes. And again, Cobra correctly used the proper term here, which is hell layer. This hell layer has existed here for a very long time, and is the main remaining cause of human suffering, which I'm sure there's other stuff there as well, but it's not wrong in calling it the main, or certainly one of the main remaining causes of human suffering. And according to him, quote, after July 9th, the light forces will start removing that field to make room for our activation on July 5th. Now, July 5th is the culmination of a massive mass meditation by that various starseed groups are going to unite and converge on. And the thing to understand is that this 30-meter layer throughout the surface, or just above the surface, from the surface, above the surface, only 30 meters on these respective planes, that could hide a lot. It could hide, and does hide, vast AI God machinery infrastructure, vast dark civilizations hidden within portals, or also known as, and also temporal bubbles. It was a kind of like a significant protective layer of loads of negative entities as well. It's a classic case of having to drain the swamp of this 30-meter thick surface layer throughout the surface of humanity. That then exposes the AI God infrastructure that would basically compose reality, that would construct that false human population, support and, to a degree, protect negative entities and maintain negative frequencies. So it's all about draining this, or clearing this layer, this 30-meter layer of hell throughout the surface. And what has been missing with this intel release is the right tactic or strategy to do this, but in a planned, sequential way that will culminate on the July 26th knockout blow, so to speak, on the physical plane, of draining it, of clearing this layer of hell on the physical plane on the 26th. And it doesn't and won't happen in one fell swoop. It won't work that way. There's just too much there. It's incredibly fortified. So what's required, and this is where the 144K comes in, because of our very tactical and strategic nature, you first have to, one by one, over the next few 144K mass meditations, is between now, or this Sunday, new moon, and the 26th of July, is you have to first focus on clearing the mental plane first. Then in the ensuing 144K mass meditation, clearing probably the astral plane. And then the one after that, the etheric plane. And then that's what allow the successful clearing of this layer of hell and vast multi-layered civilizations and infrastructure within it on the physical plane on the 26th. That's what will allow that knockout blow on the physical plane on the 26th of July. And that's because the non-physical planes, especially in combination with each other, that's what props up and formulates and creates the harsh realities on the physical plane. Okay. That's just the way that is. And the good news is, courtesy of, I'm going to call it a universal phenomena or an energetic fundamental, when we here on the physical plane project our consciousness to any of the non-physical planes or densities for that matter, by some remarkable energetic default, it activates godlike powers where we really do clear massive stuff in one fell swoop. All right, which is why they keep everything is constructed in a way where they keep our consciousness preoccupied, busy, and focused on 3D survival on the physical plane, let alone conflicts of whatever form amongst ourselves or at the wrong thing. So that's why they do that. They engineer society and the matrix in a way that's the result. But again, part and parcel of planetary liberation or underlying planetary liberation is the proper, focused projection of consciousness from the physical to any non-physical realm, where you don't necessarily need to rely on numbers that much. You're doing proper, well-guided, but easy psychic surgery type mass meditations. And by doing this planned strategic sequence of huge energetic interventions with the ensuing 144K mass meditations between now and the 26th of July, it's able to set up the full removal of this 30-meter thick energetic layer of hell on the 26th of July. It enables it. It makes it realistic, grounded in reality, and feasible. And that's the plan. That's the tactic and strategy moving forward, starting with the 144K mass meditation on this new moon in Gemini on the 14th of June 2026. It's only 48 hours away. Again, if you're listening to this wherever on social media and you're not a member, the link is below. If you're serious about planetary liberation and you do want to take energetic matters into your own hands, you're shown how to do that. That's what we're all about. So that's that. Once this 30-meter thick layer of hell is removed, which it can be realistically with this new strategy on or by the 26th of July, the light forces can really complete the process of finding whatever infrastructure, technology, be it physical or non-physical. They can find it easy. Portals, wormholes, temporal bubbles that darkness operates out of, both physical and non-physical. They'll be able to find it really fast, really easy after the 26th, whatever's remaining throughout the surface, let alone consolidate control over things like negative frequencies from cell towers, scalar waves from whatever deep state CIA facilities broadcasting negative scalar waves to us, to you and me as starseeds. They can just get in there, find it, remove it, or take it over if it's technology, shut it down, done. Energetic freedom, liberation on the surface. Now, I guess I can't make guarantees because of the fog of war. That's the nature of war. But what I'm giving you here is a realistic, grounded in reality, feasible outlook and strategy to make it happen. Again, that's if you're serious about quickening and supporting the planetary liberation process. Now, for those of us that are 144K members and participate in somewhat regularly in 144K mass meditations, we're literally part of the light forces. All right. And this, you're doing a lot of grid work by yourself and your team on a somewhat regular basis, then yes, you're still part of light forces. But otherwise, like most starseeds, still inactive and dormant. And that's what the 144K is all about, in flipping to make most starseeds from inactive to active. There's a reason why it's taking so long. The more that become active and join, the merrier. So I want to finish off with back to the godlike powers that by default get activated when projecting consciousness from the physical plane to the non-physical planes or densities. When projecting one's consciousness from the physical plane to the physical plane, which does work, it does help a lot, that's where you really do need numbers for that direct impact. And otherwise, you have to focus on clearing the non-physical plane aspect of whatever you want transformed on the physical plane. Okay, that's more of an indirect strategy that does work, but it takes a bit longer. But as far as this campaign is concerned, we are planning things out and using this strategy so that it all is ready and culminates the way it needs to culminate for the 26th of July. So another big shout out again to Cobra and the RM for organizing this cumulative process. Well, not cumulative process, but focusing on the 26th of July for that convergence, where the non-physical planes will be cleared as far as this 30-meter thick layer of hell is concerned throughout the surface. It will be cleared throughout all non-physical planes by the 26th, and that's what makes it really realistic for a possible, and that's what will make it possible for a one fell swoop removal of this layer of hell on the 25th, actually, during that mass meditation. So I hope I explained it in a clear enough way for clarity, but also, like, I'm also adding and including the kind of strategy that's needed to make sure we succeed on the 25th of July on the physical plane. Again, the physical plane, clearing that's always a different animal. And it often requires careful strategizing. And to finish out with this broader category, in terms of what the remaining AI guide machine can't do any longer, and that is, it can't rewrite the future. It can't write the future anymore. Up until, I'm intuiting about 2 weeks ago, it could just rewrite the future for the planet, you and me. Can't do that anymore. It's too dismantled and for the most part removed. Now, this is one aspect of the AI God machine. And above all, it can't override our soul's free will future anymore. To clarify that, because we all, when we talk about free will, we always come from the perspective of our 3D, very highly limited egoic consciousness avatar level free will, which is rarely honored by our own soul and higher self, by the way, because we rarely know what's good for us, what's the best for us. We think we do, we don't. All right. Our soul's perspective, our soul's free will, yeah, that has the higher consciousness. You can use the term higher self if you want. That's what was getting overwritten incessantly by various levels and aspects of the AI. All cleared. All right. Again, that's a typical example of what needs to be cleared first. Otherwise, we ain't removing any 30-meter thick layer of hell throughout the surface of the planet. Which brings us back to why things have to be sequenced the right way at the right time. All right, so finishing off, or rounding off, I guess, on the confirmation. Again, insider positive military info here. Confirmation on how Planetary Liberation events were scheduled up until recently for 2032 and 2033, how they've been moved forward by a few years, quote unquote. Cough, cough. Congratulations, 144K, for being so consistent in upgrading the timelines every 2 weeks. And this is from Q the Storm Rider, who again has direct access to insider positive military info. And this is written info sent to him in black and white. All right, written. It's not channel, not telepathy, which clearly isn't immune to the subjective mind. So, like I said, original operations of the event as we know it, basically, he called it contact, meaning off-world contact, mass landings, etc., was for 2032 and 2033. And it's been confirmed that, I'll call it the Light Forces or positive military. They want to move this forward from 2032 to 2033 by a few, unquote, years earlier. Now, we can all speculate and safely assume that a few is a lot more than a couple, okay? A few years is anywhere between 3 years to 6 years, arguably. And that he said, and I'm quoting again, they, meaning the Light Forces or positive military, want to make this even faster, unquote. Now, the thing to realize is the White Hats, I guess, they can't disclose a precise year because that benefits the bad guys, as an important aside. All this means that the Light Forces, positive terrestrial and non-terrestrial and inner Earth, they can now move it way forward by, quote, a few years if they're disclosing it publicly through public outlets like Q the Storm Rider or Gene Deco typically. The thing to understand, and an important thing to interpret this in terms of so-called comms, is whenever something's publicly disclosed, it means that is already done and happened, or it can be done. It's now an option. So that's the kind of perspective or lens that you need to interpret this whole thing about they want or they can move the event a few years earlier from the original 2032, 2033 forward to what seems to be anywhere between 2026 to 2029. Okay, I can comfortably call that a few years earlier. Now, with that understanding and perspective, it's important to realize, especially, 144K veterans know this because I've said it 1,000 times, but if you're a non-144K member, it's important to understand that such a thing, such a arguable, massive, profound breakthrough doesn't happen on its own. It's not all done by the positive ETs that are here to rescue us. It fundamentally doesn't work that way. Yes, they're involved. Yes, they help. Yes, they try to nudge us in a certain direction. But fundamental to planetary liberation, without it taking forever, is us being nudged and taking action on those intuitive nudges from the physical that results in consciousness projection from the physical to the non-physical, which shifts things, which makes them able to do way more, because the non-physical is the blueprint for the physical and what happens on the physical. Always fundamental. I've said it 1,000 times. I'm not going to say it another 1,000 times. Otherwise, there's no freedom without this understanding and the application of this understanding. To bring it around to my main point, things like that don't just happen. This whole upgrading the timelines and moving the event a few years earlier, unquote. It happens through starseed groups, not just the positive military, but civilian starseed groups rallying together consistently every 2 weeks, not once a year. It doesn't cut it. I have to be really clear about that. Every 2 weeks, very consistently, doing the right kind of focus, working from the right level of consciousness with what is arguably psychic surgery type mass meditations every new moon and full moon, which is every 2 weeks, not just big astrological alignments. That consistency doesn't just bump up the timelines consistently, but that consistent upgrading timeline compounds on itself over time, which produces that exponential upward curve in timeline upgrades and ascension, to where, lo and behold, you end up with a situation where the white hats, through their outlets, are able to disclose publicly that they can, in other words, it's now safe to, and they will, move the event a few years earlier. Yes, let that sink in. I sure as heck aren't going to be waiting from the original 2032 to 2033 event timeline. No way. Not for a split second. This is why we've done this bi-weekly mass meditations since 2017. One to 2 hour psychic surgery type mass meditation. So that makes such a huge difference. And clearly, this is arguable proof by the white hats through their outlets like Hugh the Storm Rider that it does work and has worked. We're on the brink of moving all of this a few years earlier. What a profound success. And let's culminate in a massive way, making a massive statement for our freedom, and that we're not accepting anything less than full galactic family reunion. Let's make that statement emphatically on that culmination date of the 25th of July 2026 to actualize the event a few years earlier from the original date. If that doesn't excite you, I don't know, find a needle and jab it into your skin a little bit to see if you got a pulse or awake. And I'm not just talking positive and ungrounded excitedness. We don't have time for that. This is a carefully planned out strategy with the right tactics to make it happen, actualize it on the physical surface. So yes, I can claim that we're a very special, unique Starseed group. If you love the sound of that, link to join is below this video. See you on the June 14th, 144K mass meditation on this new moon in Gemini. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you're rested for that, where we begin this critical game-changing strategy so that come the 25th of July, this layer of hell is removed on the physical plane also, because we accept nothing less. This is your loving servant, the Unknown Lightwarrior, ending this release of intel and broadcast of Ground Crew Command, the official speaking platform of the 144K. See you in 48 hours. If you can't make it, join anyway. Let's take matters into our own hands, because now we can.